The Astros just made a big signing, dipping into the Japanese market, signing Japanese star pitcher Tatsuya Imai. On the surface, Imai had a great season last year. Last year, he put up a 1.92 ERA in 163.2 innings. He walked 45 batters in those innings, struck out 170 batters, had a whip of 0.89. He had a 27.8% K rate, a 7% walk rate, and a 172 batting average against. Okay, so Imai, some comparisons for Imai based on like stuff, pitch, the way he pitches, arm angle, stuff like that. He's been compared to Luis Castillo, Joe Ryan, Kodai Senga. Obviously, some really good pitchers. The one that's really intriguing there is Senga because, obviously Senga came over from Japan also, and he's had really good success over here in MLB. Another really big stat here. I really like this because of the issues we have in our rotation right now. So in 2023, Imai pitched 133 innings. In 2024, he pitched 173.1 innings. And in 2025, he pitched 163 and 2/3 innings. So Imai's arm is built up. He pitches a lot of innings. And that's a big worry right now because if you look at everyone past Hunter Brown, you have Mike Burrows, so only pitched around 90 innings last year. Javier, he's pitched around 130, 140 innings in the past, but he's coming back from a big injury. We don't know how many innings he's going to pitch this year. He's probably on the innings limit. Arrietty's a guy who's never gotten built up. And then you got your guys like Alexander, Pearson, Alexander who's never gone deep into a season and pitched a full year anyways. And you got guys like Nate Pearson, who has not been a starter since he was in the minor leagues. So you don't know any of these guys can pitch a lot of innings. So it's good to see now you have Hunter Brown, whose obviously arm is built up now. He's been in the majors for 3 years. His arm is built up. That's great. Imai seems to be built up. That's great. Also, another thing was a big worry about Imai coming over to the big leagues was that there's a big worry how he would do in a 5-man rotation. It's a perfect fit here in Houston because it's more likely we're going to a 6-man rotation because of the things we just mentioned, where people are not built up on their innings coming off of injuries. So you have a guy like Javier, you have guys like Arrietty, you have guys like Alexander, and you have guys like Imai, and other guys are gonna fill out like Weiss, Pearson, McCullers. You prefer to go to a 6-round rotation because you do have that depth and you want to keep your guys healthy. So this is a really good fit here for Imai. Another thing about Imai, so he has shown major improvement as time has gone along. So in 2020, just for reference, on his walks, so a big issue with him before these last 2 years, before this year, is he was walking the world. For example, in 2021, he had a 14.5% walk rate. Went down in 2022, 13.8. Went down again in 2023, 11.4, which is still really high. The highest this year in the big league is 11.8 for qualified starters. And in 2024, 9.8, a lot better. This year in 2025, 7% walk rate. That's really good. For reference, this year, Hunter Brown, our starters who pitched these 50 innings had a 7.8% walk rate. Hunter Brown did a really good job this year limiting walks. Tatsuya Imai last year in Japan did a better job of limiting walks than Hunter Brown did this year. Another thing, talking about how Imai has constantly improved in Japan. His K percentage going from 2023 or from 2021, we'll start again. In 2021, he had 20.1% K rate. In 2022, it went up 24.8% K rate. In 2023, it went slightly down to 24.4, but then jumped up again in 2024 to 26.3. And then his highest this year in 2025 was a 27.8% K percentage. For reference, our highest K percentage was obviously Hunter Brown. He had a 28.3. Second highest on this team of qualified starters was Framber Valdez. Framber Valdez, with a 23.3. So Imai has shown improvement every year, consistent improvement. Walks continue to go down, strikeouts continue to go up, and obviously this year was his best year where he just purely dominated. Another thing about Imai, he is a straight competitor. He is a very competitive person. In 2023, he was struggling to start the year. So his team, the Lions, I think, they sent him down to the minor leagues. When he came back, he was so angry about getting sent down. He had a sub 2 ERA the rest of the way through the year. That first start he came back, he threw 8 shutout innings. This is a guy who is a straight competitor. He's going to fit right in. The Astros always do a great job developing pitchers. I mean, and this is a sign that kind of came out of nowhere. There were no talks about Imai and the Astros. There was nothing about that. And we don't usually see the Astros dip into the Japanese market. We see more of them going for the Latin players. So and also this deal has opt-outs. So the deal is for 3 years, 18 million AAV. Now that AAV can go up based on how many innings he pitched. So if he pitches 80 innings, it goes up to 19 million. If he pitches 90 innings, it goes up to 20 million. If he pitches 100 innings, it goes up to 21 million. And that's the max his AAV can go. This deal has opt-outs at the end of every year, which is something that's also surprising on how this deal got done, because Jim Crane does not like to work with the opt-outs. So it's pretty crazy seeing, kind of a shift in what we usually see, because we don't see opt-outs with these Astros deals. We don't see Japanese players get signed. Now, what doesn't make sense, it was a short-term deal, which obviously the Astros prefer. But you beat out guys like the Yankees and the Mets, who Yankees and the Mets reportedly were not super serious, but the Cubs were. And the report was the Cubs had a more longer-term deal with less AAV, and the Astros wanted with this 3-year deal with opt-outs, as that's what Imai felt more comfortable with. But Imai is one of those guys that's talked about. They asked him, "Do you want to go play for the Dodgers?" As a lot of the Japanese players have gone over to Los Angeles. And he said, "No, I want to beat the Dodgers." Very competitive pitcher. He's going to fit right in with Hunter Brown. Hunter Brown's another one of those guys who just wants to compete every single time he's out there. Another thing is, you didn't have a number two that you were like, "Oh, okay, this is the for sure number two." You were going back and forth between Mike Burrows and Christian Javier. And I mean, you think those guys can be really good, but you're not sure. Christian Javier coming off that big injury. Mike Burrows still young, hasn't pitched too many innings, and still had a 3.9 ERA last year. You don't really want that from your second starter. But now Imai is a guy you feel can potentially be a mid threes or lower ERA guy in about 150, 160 innings. And you're going to take that every day of the week right behind Hunter Brown, who you expect to be a Cy Young candidate again. Now, this just adds depth, because now you had 2 studs at the top. And then you have instead of 4 rotation spots being fought for, now you got 3. Hunter Brown's going to be your number 1. There's a 90% chance Imai is going to be your number 2. I think they're going to put Christian Javier as 3 and then Mike Burrows as the 4. And so that means you still have Spencer Ragetti, who now likely profiles as your number 5. And like I said earlier, I think they'll go into a 6-man rotation. I doubt Lance McCullers is in the rotation because he's probably going to get hurt, unfortunately. I hope he doesn't, and I hope he's great. But even if he stays healthy, we saw that short stint when he was healthy last year. He just wasn't good. He had 1 good start about every 5 starts. That's just not going to cut it. He had a run of 5 ERA total last year. I think it was higher. Maybe it'd been a 5.5. But those 5 guys, those are established. Well, not established. Not Javier. I mean, Arrigetti's not established. But you got 5 actual starters. Last year you had Jason Alexander. No one knew who Jason Alexander was. Colton Gordon was never expected to be up in the big leagues last year. Same thing with Brandon Walter. Hunter Brown, Imai, Javier, Arrigetti, and Burrows are all expected to be big leaguers. That's a lot. We're looking a lot better now. And then you have guys fighting for that 6th spot, like McCullers, if he's able to stay healthy. Pearson, Weiss, and the talk about Weiss is that people really think his stuff is going to be able to play. And obviously coming to Houston, I mean, we got the pitching lab over here. We can help him out big time. Same thing with Imai. So Imai's profile as a pitcher, like we said earlier, profiles closer to Senga, Castillo, and Joe Ryan. So his best pitches per grade, the pitches that grade out the best for him are his fastball and his slider. The fastball is more of like a 2-seam fastball, and it moves crazy. It's going to give right-handed hitters trouble every single day. Kind of like how Hunter Brown uses his 2-seam, but Imai's is just a lot better. That slider, it's a little bit of a weird slider. It moves instead of moving well, as a right-handed pitcher, instead of moving to the left, it moves to the right, which is kind of weird, obviously, because you expect that more from the changeup. But he also does have a bit of a Vulcan change from what I'm seeing. He's got a pretty good pitch mix. The Astros always like those guys with changeups. But this is a great signing. I mean, this is really gonna help. It probably means that Justin Verlander is not gonna be here, which I think that's fine, right? Unless Jim Crane wants to go over the luxury tax, which I doubt. He's more likely to go over the luxury tax later in the year at the trade deadline. He doesn't usually go over the luxury tax during the season or in the off season. But I mean, if you're looking at it, the biggest concerns for Imai was the command a few years ago, and he's gotten control of that. He has really good stuff. This guy's gonna be a stud. I don't think he's gonna be as good as Yamamoto because he never was as good as Yamamoto in Japan. But I mean, you look at Senga. I mean, this guy has a ERA in the low threes, all of his years. This could be a really good pitcher. Now, you worry, let's say he does go out and he has a great year next year. Well, he has that opt out. What if he just leaves? Well, in that case, you still got one great year of him. But I mean, I think he can find a good home here. I mean, he chose to be here for a reason. Granted, that reason was probably the opt outs. But I don't think he would have. This guy's a competitor, like we said earlier. I doubt he would have came here if he thought we weren't going to be in the playoffs. And I think this changes everything because now, let's say you do get into the playoffs. Well, Hunter Brown's a guaranteed. You're going to be right there. You're going to have a great chance to win the game. People go into a game, they see Hunter Brown, they're scared. You put Imai in there. Now you're not as worried. I mean, you were looking, okay, Javier. Well, how is Zon going to hold up at the end of the year? Okay, Burrows, yeah, he has no experience. Eric Getty, same thing. Now you're looking at a guy, you're like, okay, here we go. Now we're doing something, especially putting him into that 6-man rotation. Because that was a big worry, as we said earlier. Another big thing as far as the depth in this rotation, I think Nate Pearson is making this roster because he has no options left. So like a guy like Eric Getty, if he comes in a spring and he is horrible, you can send him down. Can't do that for Pearson. But I think Eric Getty's gonna have a great year. I think Eric Getty was in a good position to have a really good breakout year last year before that freak accident with the thumb. But you're hoping this year he can come back, pitch around 120 to 140 innings, right? Hopefully you get like a high threes, mid threes ERA. And Javier's another big one. The problem is with Javier. Which Javier are we gonna get? I'm expecting him to pitch around 120, 130 innings, right? If he doesn't get hurt. But last time Javier pitched a full season, he had a 4.54 ERA. The year before that, he was in about a 2.5 ERA. So we really don't know what Javier we're gonna get. Now let's say we get something in the middle and we get about 140, 130 innings of 3.5 ERA from Javier. Well, that's great. He'll slide in your number 3. And then let's say Mike Burrows. Mike Burrows had a sub-4 ERA. He had a 3.94, I think, in about 90 innings. Okay, let's say the ERA goes down a little bit to about 3.7, 3.6. Well, now and his innings go up to about 130, 140. Well, now you're looking really good. And not to mention, you should be getting Ronel Blanco back at the end of the year and Hayden Wesneski back at the end of the year. Hayden Wesneski is not a cyber starter. He's been a reliever for most of his career, so you worry a little bit about that. But Ronel Blanco was a guy who was getting his legs under him as a starter. He started to look really good for us, and especially through a lot of innings in what was it, 2024. So you're hoping he can get back and perform well. But again, those guys are both coming back from Tommy John. It's gonna be tough. So, but the good thing is you have a lot of depth. You still have Cole Gordon. You don't really want him to be there, but now he's like way down in the depth chart. Another guy that you probably see at the end of the year come up, Ethan Pecco. Ethan Pecco has had a big rise on the prospects list as far as the Astros organization. Dana Brown has spoken very highly of him. I think this organization really, really likes him. I think you could see him come up at the end of the year, and make an impact, kind of like Blue Ball did. We haven't even spoken about Blue Ball, but Blue Ball, I mean, let's say he doesn't make this rotation, which we saw what he did last year as a reliever. He was insane out of the bullpen last year to end off that year. I mean, you just have so many options. Walter's another guy. Well, no, I think Walter's probably done until after this year. But just for options after, so Imai, Brown, Burrows, Javier, I think are guaranteed rotation spots. So you still have Arrighetti, you have Mike, Arrighetti, Ryan Weiss, Colton Gordon, McCullers, Blue Ball, Nate Pearson. Like, you have a lot of options here, and Ethan Pecco maybe later in the year, and then you have those guys coming back from injury. And Jason Alexander, I think I forgot to mention, Jason Alexander was really good for us last year. I doubt he does the same things that he did, but he's an option. He's depth. And he pitched a lot of innings last year, so his arm's going to be a little bit more built up. This is starting to look really good for the Astros. I think this offense is going to be better than we expect. So let's say I think it can be a fringe top 10 offense. So let's say we are a top 10 offense. With the way this pitching staff is looking, I think the bullpen looks really good. I mentioned that in the last episode. Now the starting rotation is starting to look really good. I think you're starting to see the pieces put together for a really good team. And I don't think Dana Brown is done, because Jake Myers, Christian Walker, and Isak Paredes are three guys that are still on this team. I think two of those three guys are definitely getting traded. Jake Myers, I think, is 100%. And then one of Christian Walker and Isak Paredes will end up moving too. But there's still a lot of time left in this offseason. Those moves are reliant on the signings of Kyle Tucker, on the signings of Alex Bregman. And I wonder what the plan is now for the offseason. Because if you really want to go all in, you could get a little crazy, right? You could trade Jake Myers. And this whole idea is reliant on if Jim Crane wants to go over the luxury tax, which I doubt. But if he did want to get crazy, Kyle Tucker. It's looking like Kyle Tucker is not going to get the long-term deal he wants this offseason. People are a little bit worried about the injuries, this, and that. Could you get him on an opt-out deal on those three? We've seen it forever. Well, not forever, but we've seen it a lot now in this modern day. 3-year deal, opt out every year. In the past, we think, there's no way Jim Crane does that, but he just did it with Imai. So let's say Jim Crane decides, you know what, screw it, we're going over the luxury tax. They go give Kyle Tucker one of those 3-year deals with opt-outs. They trade Jake Myers. They do whatever with Jesus Sanchez, and they trade one of Paredes and Walker. Well, now your outfield, you have Cam Smith in left, Kyle Tucker in right, Zach Cole in center. And then you're on DH, and then whoever you keep between Walker and Paredes at first, Posey at second, Pena at short, Correa at third, and Diaz at catcher. Now, granted, that's very likely not going to happen, because I'm pretty sure you would lose that pick for going over the luxury tax. But this is starting to look a lot better now with Imai. And there's still moves to be made, and we'll see what ends up happening with Jake Myers. And I think Jake Myers is the one that goes for sure. To who? I would think the Royals could be that move, but, they've been in talks with the Red Sox about a potential Jarren Duran move. So I think that would have to fizzle out first. But overall, I'm really liking how this team is starting to look. This is a huge signing. It's really going to help out this rotation. And I'm very excited to watch Imai. Hopefully it's not for 1 year. Hopefully he comes back and he opts into his deal, or we can extend him. But really excited about this signing. Really excited about this season. And I can't wait till spring training. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.